Hey, welcome back, everyone, to Entrepreneur Encounters. Thanks for joining us again on this episode 5. I am super honored today to have Rob Krecak with me today. You're going to learn a lot from him. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's started and run a lot of businesses, has an amazing amount of experience. And in my time working with him, he has a wonderful brain around all things business and understanding and asks some really deep questions. Before we get there, I want to tell you a little bit about why we're doing Entrepreneur Encounters. Look, we want to empower entrepreneurs to be able to access and find the money, means, and mindset necessary to be able to unleash their business. Ultimately, I believe by encountering other entrepreneurs, whether it's through interviews or whether it's through group formats, you're going to have the ability to level up your business. So without further ado, Rob, I want to go ahead and invite you into the show. Thanks for coming today.
Yeah, Brent, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm grateful to be able to share my experiences with other entrepreneurs or people who are interested in entrepreneurship.
Awesome. So just tell us a little bit about yourself and the newest business that you're working on right now.
Yeah, so born and raised in Wisconsin in a small town of 2,500 people, and went to UW-Madison for school. Got degrees in finance, Spanish, and management, and got into the working world. Really liked finance. I was a sell-side equity analyst at Baird, Robert Baird in Milwaukee. I really liked that company a lot. I did that for 5 years, researching pharmaceutical and medical device companies. I ended up getting my CFA charter, so I'm still a CFA charter holder, and decided though to enter the world of entrepreneurship. And the business that I'm working on right now is a company to help people improve their mental health and productivity, especially at work, through communicating and using technology differently. And I know that that sounds very general and not specific, but I'm kind of saying that on purpose because I'm trying to figure out what my best target market is for the company and trying to determine the direction of the company, to be totally transparent with you guys. And I don't know exactly what it is yet. So I'm working with a marketing person to figure that out, and hopefully be able to figure out a good target market in the next couple of weeks here.
Awesome. So I labeled you as a serial entrepreneur. Why is that? Are you really into cornflakes? Tell me about why a serial entrepreneur. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I didn't really realize this until I became an entrepreneur, but I just always had an entrepreneurial mindset. Like even when I was a kid, my family lived, we had a pretty big yard. It was like an acre and kind of a rural area, but around my yard was a golf course. And, I don't even think my parents prompted me to do this, but I just had opened up like a lemonade stand on the corner of our yard and the golf course. And I did that as a kid. And then I also collected golf balls and cleaned them up and resold them when I was really young. And, had a business illegally making CDs in high school, which probably maybe I shouldn't be admitting on the recording. But, I guess I just have always been entrepreneurial. And, when I was working in the corporate world at Baird, and again, I really, really respect and admire that company and the employees. I really like them a lot, and think it's an incredible company. But for me, I just found out that the corporate world wasn't, for me as a person, because I just thought I didn't like the structure, and the other thing is, in my career, I honestly just didn't feel like I was helping people enough. And so I knew that I wanted to, go off and do my own thing. And, what I did is save up some money at my day job and, enough money to open my first business. And, I just decided for myself that, one of my core principles as a human is I want to live life with no regrets. So I don't want to be in my deathbed and wonder what if, what if I would have started that first business. And so what I told myself is, look, I have this money that I've saved up, and I know that I will regret it on my deathbed if I don't start my first company and just give it a shot. And I know that I could lose everything, all the money that I've saved and all the time that I invested, but for me, it was still worth it to not have to wonder what if on my deathbed. And, it's been a great journey since then. I've been really, really appreciative and, learned so many things through the businesses I've owned, and I just love it. To me, it's like the most fun game that you can play is the world of business.
That's awesome. Why don't you walk us through, you've had a handful. So why don't you walk us through some of the businesses that you've started, going back to the very beginning when you said you saved up that pile of money to get first launched?
Yeah. So, and I hope that, me sharing this experience with some of your audience will help them understand better what an entrepreneur goes through in general. Because one of the things that I just want to clarify, especially for some of your younger people who might be watching this, is doing entrepreneurship is really freaking hard work. Like there's no substitute for doing something that's difficult, because if something is easy, everyone will do it. And so despite what everyone on Instagram makes it want you to, or wants you to think, it's not easy. There's never going to be a super easy path to entrepreneurship. And so, my entrepreneurship journey started. I had saved about $100,000 of my own money. This is not that wasn't my parents' money or anything, or that wasn't a gift or something. That was my money that I'd saved over about a 6 year or a 5 year period, actually, at my day job. And so I took that money, and while I was working this 60-hour-a-week day job, I on the side started my first business, which was an Anytime Fitness health club. And I knew, I was super passionate about fitness and helping people. And I knew that I really loved the business of fitness, and I wanted to start my own concept. And so I opened my first business from scratch. And so the gym was, literally, it was an old Piggly Wiggly. And my dad, that was so fortunate to have my dad and my family help build it out, physically build it out. And then so the business became cash flow break even after about 10 months. And again, I was, during that 10 months, I was in my day job, working that while still doing this on the side. So that was an incredibly busy time of my life. Like, you're working 80, 90, 100-hour weeks. And, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. And so as soon as the business became cash flow positive enough for me to sustain my lifestyle, I quit my day job, and then I traveled around the world for a while, actually. I went to Europe, South America, and Central America with a backpack, just to kind of get the travel bug out of my system. I did that for about 4 months. And then I came back to the United States. I bought my second gym, which is an Anytime Fitness franchise in Arkansas. That was an existing business. And then bought my third gym in Northern Illinois, in the city called Cary. So those were existing businesses that I turned around. And then I sold some of those and was able to invest in a cell phone repair franchise called You Break, I Fix. I ended up owning 4 of those franchises, all in the Milwaukee area, over a 6-year period. And I just recently sold my last one of those last October. And then my 2 businesses since then, one has been a tech concept called Shop Mom and Pop, which is a way to divert traffic away from Amazon.com to small and local businesses to help support local business, especially during this difficult COVID time. That's actually still in development. So I'm going to launch a beta version hopefully in the next month or 2. And then my most recent business is the one that I just told you about, helping people with their help improve their mental health and productivity through better technology use and communication. So I guess that's about, it's like, we'll call it, it's about 8 or 9 businesses in about that many years. And so I guess I don't think of myself as a serial entrepreneur until you say it like that, but I just, think it's, I love just building a new business. It's just something that it's like addicting kind of.
Yeah, you said a whole bunch of things I want to touch on there. One of the things that we are going to get the links, like to that Shop Mom and Pop. We'll get some of those links here in the description so anyone can look those up when you need to and when they're ready to launch. You mentioned that you saved up $100,000 over 5 years. What sacrifices do you feel like you had to make during that time to be able to put the money away? Because it's one thing we hear a lot is like, I don't know how I'm ever going to get the startup capital to make this initial launch in there. And the fitness places, that's a little bit labor intensive because you got to have equipment and other stuff installed for the people to come. It's going to take more than a couple of yoga mats and a set of speakers.
Yeah, for sure. And, that was, I guess, one of my regrets was for like the first 3 years. It's not that I wasn't saving money, but I was just, I was like living in super fancy apartments and spending ridiculous amounts of money on alcohol at the bars. And I wouldn't trade most of that for, for anything, but I wish what I had done is like done that for a year or maybe a year and a half, and then gotten more serious about saving money. Because I remember I used mint.com for my personal budgeting. And what I did what I like. I was going through numbers, and I still actually use it even to this day to keep myself personally accountable for my personal finances. And I remember like my monthly budget was $4,500 a month before I cut down on my spending. And I was like, that seems like kind of a lot. I mean, I don't need to be spending that. So I'm like, how can I cut this down by 2 grand a month so that I can really start saving a serious amount of money? So instead of going from this, living in a really fancy brand new apartment on North Avenue downtown, or excuse me, on Water Street, one of the coolest areas to live on, I rented a room in a buddy's apartment in a buddy's house for $300 a month. And I did that for a couple of years. And then I was still driving my Saturn while my friends were buying Audis, BMWs, and Lexuses, and I didn't have a car payment. And I, just stopped spending as much money at the bars. And so I was able to actually reduce my budget and almost basically cut it in half and take that 2 grand a month that I wasn't spending and put it towards saving for the business. And honestly, I needed every single penny of it. And if I wouldn't have done that, the business would have went under because I wouldn't have had enough capital.
Yeah, I had a Mercury Sable that was white on the exterior and just like blue everywhere on the interior, blue dashboard, blue upholstery. It was amazing,
Yeah.
but it was cheap and
Yeah.
it allowed us to move forward. So
Yeah.
you mentioned also, you said you were 10 months, so you went to cash flow positive. To walk us through how you prepared for that. Was that what you'd budgeted for initially, to keep burning some cash in the beginning? Because I know a lot of businesses get started and the hope is once you open your doors, the cash starts flowing back in. I know that's not the case in so many situations.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I luckily I did have some decent resources at the franchise to talk to so that I could understand what a decent idea would be in terms of a timeline. But I think I was generally hoping that after the first year it would be cash flow positive, but I was, maybe anticipating it could take up to 2 years. So I guess in either scenario, I beat my own expectations. But I think a decent amount of that was just me being lucky and getting really good territory. But yeah, I mean, I exceeded my expectations in terms of that, and I was really happy about that because it was kind of difficult to see the business, not making money initially, and you're like, well, man, I really would love to be there and just do more stuff or sell more memberships or whatever, and I couldn't do that because I, had the day job, and that was just it is what it is. So in a way, though, it was kind of helpful because having the day job forced me to delegate things that I would not have otherwise. And now I realize that delegation, just like a lot of other things, is a skill, but a lot of people don't think of it that way. And I got reasonably good at delegation pretty quickly, not because I wanted to, because it was out of necessity.
Yeah, no, I think that that also I think would probably allow you to focus on what your core part of the business is and to kind of stay out of maybe the ancillary pieces you don't need to play in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How did you, so you've got a variety here. We've got gyms, and then you're moving into kind of electronics repair, mom and pop, power down. How are you identifying the problems? What gets you excited about going into these spaces and solving? Because fitness places have been around for a long time. If we just stick there, why launch an Anytime Fitness? And then why go into You Break, I Fix? Besides the fact we all like breaking the screens on our phones.
Yeah. Yeah, so I can kind of share my thought process with you. I mean, when I first, so I just knew I was so passionate about fitness and that I would love helping people with that, and totally agree with you. The fitness space is very competitive. And I guess in a way, my naivety was sort of an advantage because if I would have known how competitive it was, I might not have, done a gym. But my thought process was, okay, I love fitness, but I have never managed people. I've never owned a business. I don't know how to run a gym. I've never worked in one. And so I don't essentially know how to, do the nuts and bolts of owning a gym or running a gym. And so I thought to myself, well, a franchise would be a good way to get the business model. And so then all I have to do is execute, which is still harder than it sounds, but at least the template and the outline for running the business is there. And so at the time, this was in 2008 when I was researching this. There was really only a couple major health club franchises that were within my amount of capital that I could invest. And so it basically came between Snap Fitness and Anytime Fitness. And I'll never forget, each of the companies had a call every week with the CEO where you could call in and ask questions. And I just got such a good feeling from the CEO of Anytime Fitness, just like, yeah, this guy is great. He's smart. He's really personable. I can tell he's not going to bullshit me and be honest. And I just didn't get a warm fuzzy from the CEO of Snap Fitness, honestly. And even though it seems like I should have done a little bit more analysis than that, and of course I did, that was ultimately the factor that made me decide to for sure go with Anytime Fitness, because it was like, this feels right, with this person. And I generally think that decisions with people should be made on gut. And so I went with it, and the rest is history.
Yeah. So tell me about what's the process like getting in on a franchise? Because many business owners, I will say, truly start from scratch, and you kind of got to build up your own model. But getting in on a franchise is an equally valid way. So walk us through like your thoughts on maybe pros and cons on the franchise, or why you chose to go the franchise model on both these businesses.
Yeah. So I definitely think that there's, great things about a franchise and some not great things, but the same thing is true about building your own business from scratch and not having a franchise. So it really just depends on what is right for you. And if I could go back and do it again, I would have still actually done a gym franchise, because my, I knew at the time what I didn't know. I was pretty real about that with myself. And I was like, yeah, Rob, you don't know how to run a freaking gym. So you need the business model. And that's what led me to do a franchise. But the other thing, and this was the more analytical part of me, I love to analyze things as a former analyst. I wanted to, I was essentially with a franchise buying a probability of success. So what I knew at the time when I signed on the dotted line with the franchise is 95% of all Anytime Fitnesses that had ever opened were still open. Now, not all of them were successful, but you can still at least get financially successful, we'll say, but at least you can get an idea of what the likelihood is of success based on the number of openings and closings. And I thought to myself, well, I'm way less likely than 95% to have Rob's Gym open after 5 years if I open up my own business. So to me, I just knew that if I do the franchise, and even if I'm an average franchisee, my likelihood of being open after however many years is 95%. That was a really good likelihood, and I went with that. Some of the negatives of a franchise are you have to give up control of your own destiny and know that other people, like the owners of like the franchisor, sorry, is going to be making decisions that directly impact you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Maybe you can influence them, but you can't make the decisions yourself. And so you have to have trust and faith in the ability of the people at the top of the franchisor to do the right thing for you. And I think that I had very different experiences related to both of my franchises in that regard. And I would still certainly recommend a franchise for certain people, just as long as you know that you have to give up some control, not all control, but some, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's super, super interesting to evaluate, because like I said, many people think I've got to build it entirely from scratch. And it sounds like the franchising gives you a head start on the model and frankly, some branding and a lot of times awareness that may be able to give you a launch. So that allows me to move forward to both Shop Mom and Pop and Power Down. Neither of those are you may franchise it out to people, but none of those are franchised yet. So walk us through what has been fundamentally different as you're developing those and getting ready to launch both of those platforms.
Yeah. So I think what is true, the real answer to that question is my confidence as an entrepreneur to identify a true problem has really changed over time. And now I feel like I have enough business insight and experience, not just in running a business, but seeing what business opportunities are and, identifying them and then building a business around it. And so I feel like I have enough confidence now where I can take something from scratch and make it come to life. Whereas before, especially with the first franchise, I didn't have that confidence. And so I'm not saying that it's a certainty, but I am at a point where I value being able to control my own destiny more than having someone provide the outline or the business model for me, and that's just what's right for me at this time. And I'm excited about taking something from absolutely from zero, from no product or sales or anything, and growing that by myself, or obviously with other people, but being responsible for all of it is very, that's a good challenge, and I like challenging myself. So I don't view it as a negative. I view it as a positive challenge that I want to overcome.
There you go. So what do you do to stay on top of your industry? You're going into a new field. You're got to sort of do some research about, I assume you got to bring some vendors on a platform if you're doing the shop mom and pop, and the power down as well. You've got some data behind this. It's not just a gut feel. While your entrepreneur gut may work well, there's still got to be some data behind it, some support as a former analyst. So what are you doing to stay on top of the information set and making sure that you're current, relevant, and truly solving a problem?
Yeah, that's I'm just laughing because my fiance makes fun of me because I like to analyze so many things, like almost exhaustingly to her. But I personally find that super interesting, and I just love it. Like analyzing anything, whether it's a business market or analyzing humans or analyzing myself even. I just think it's sort of like a really complex game. And if you can, do the game well, not only is it rewarding to like kind of win the game, but it's financially rewarding, but it's also very difficult and a good challenge. And so there's not like, I can't like give you some sort of 1 or 2 sentence process for researching stuff, because it's so complex and there's so many different things that I do that it's difficult to summarize. But what I would say is, when I'm really interested in something, I just go all in. Like I will just start, and it just starts with a simple Google search. But like I might Google something and get so involved in it that I'll research it for a day. Like as an example, um, I was like got obsessed for a day or two about reading about vitamin D and its role in chemicals in our body and like vitamin D levels in the United States and all this stuff. And I did about a day's worth of research on it, but it provided some extremely valuable insights related to my power down business, which seemingly are totally unrelated to technology, but it actually all, is interrelated. And so, I've realized that I'm very fortunate to have the time and space to do that now, whereas a lot of people aren't. But if if you're kind of looking for recommendation for other people, my recommendation would be find something that captures your interest and just spend some time exploring that, whether it's through a Google search or reading books or listening to podcasts. Just don't have any particular aim in mind. Just start like listening and absorbing and being in that space. And if you just use your intuition to kind of see what else naturally captures your attention, that's usually a pretty good direction to go.
Oh, I like that. I mean, I think being immersed in whatever category you want to get involved in it is so essential, because that knowledge, you don't know where the next piece is going to come from. You don't know where the next meeting or the next sponsor is going to come from. So I think that's critical.
One other related thing is so this is my notebook. It's notebook 31. I take roughly like full notebook's worth of notes every month. And these are notes related to everything, like podcasts I listen to, books I read. And when I say take notes, I mean like handwritten notes, not typed or anything. I handwrite notes because what it does is it forces your brain to slow down your learning, and it allows you to retain information and remember it better. And so by handwriting on my notes, then I can connect concepts and different things that I would not have before, and remember stuff way better, like infinitely better than if I just read something. Because think about how many things in your life you've read. Ask yourself a month later, how much of that do you actually remember? if you don't write anything down, the answer, in my opinion, is very close to 0%, even if you have a great memory. And so I found that writing stuff down allows me to remember, I would say 10x compared to not writing stuff down. And so it's a good, to me, return on my time.
Well, that's right there. That's a good takeaway tip. Sometimes my wife will ask me after I finish the newspaper, did you read anything interesting? And I'm like, I don't know. I just read 12 articles, but nothing's really standing out. So point made. I should take notes next time. Talk to us a little bit about, you have, by the way, you have done a lot of mentoring and volunteering in support of other entrepreneurs, and thanks for that, because that's essential to growing the community. Who do you surround yourself with in order to help you build your businesses? Because it's not a solo project out here. There's always a lot of people who play in.
Yeah, great question. So I have several, a lot of different groups, groups like Biz Starts and, other types of organizations in Wisconsin were great. Now that I moved to Denver, I'm do some volunteering with a company called Rocky Mountain Microfinance, as well as just being involved with the entrepreneurial community. And I do that with a couple different organizations. The first one is called EO, which is Entrepreneurs Organization. And that's an international organization for entrepreneurs. I also do a couple of virtual groups. So ones that you probably haven't heard of, they're pretty small, but just want to, again, kind of immerse myself in the entrepreneurial community as much as possible, just because not only, do I like helping and giving back to the community, but, I also feel that sort of egocentrically that I actually come away with almost more when I help someone than they probably do. It's because I've helped so many entrepreneurs that I can say, yeah, I know how to analyze a nail salon versus an online therapy business versus, a food manufacturing company. I've talked to people who are CEOs of all those types of companies, and after hearing many different types of business models over a really long period of time, you just start to see these similarities, and then it benefits me and my business because I can, again, connect all those dots. So, it is very advantageous for me, but I also I just love entrepreneurship, and I just love figuring out the game. And it's like the more people I can talk to, the better I can figure out the game, which is great. I love it.
Yeah, I think that breadth of knowledge and experience I think that's ultimately what forms the base. When you hear anyone say, "Oh, it was my gut," that's really the combination and culmination of all your experiences tied together, kind of pointing you in a direction before you can even analyze it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What keeps you persevering? What keeps you on the track? You obviously started some businesses, you decide to sell them, you're pursuing some other angles, but you're staying in that entrepreneurial lane. So what drives you to stay in that lane and not return to something else? Because you obviously have an amazing set of capabilities that could chase a lot of avenues if you wanted to.
Yeah, I would say there's a handful of things. I think like a lot of people are saying today, especially, I really do like the flexibility that entrepreneurship provides. And I guess I like to take a high level of personal responsibility for things. And so as an entrepreneur, the thing that it can be bad, but I also love, is that I am the one who ultimately is responsible for everything. Even if whether the business is successful or not, it is all 100% on me. And the interesting thing is then if it's successful, 100% of the benefit can accrue to me. Whereas if I work super hard at a corporation and, let's say I provide a ton of value, not a lot of that value comes back to me. And I just don't like that. I would rather, I guess I want to reap what I sow to some degree. And I know that's for some people, they're not comfortable with that, and that's okay. But I also just know that, business, especially now more than ever, is changing so fast. And the reason that I like to get in and out of things is, everything is going to be different in 10 years, regardless of what's happening today. And I just think that a lot of people believe that, like, oh, I'm going to do this one thing for 20 years. There's going to be no business that I can think of that's going to be the same 20 years from now, or even 10 years. And I guess I just like this continual challenge of, figuring something out and learning something brand new and figuring it out as best and as fast as possible. And then once I've figured it out, I get kind of bored. And then I'm like, I need to figure something else out. So it's sort of a blessing and a curse in a way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Rob, we really appreciate having you on today. I think we've learned a lot. Just to kind of wrap up again, we're with Rob Krecak, Power Down, Shop Mom and Pop. Also, he's getting on here. Rob's just got an amazing amount of wealth, and thank you for sharing with us. If you have liked what you've seen here on Entrepreneur Encounters, I want to encourage you to subscribe or follow us on whatever platform you're watching this on. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'd be absolutely honored to do that. I'm Brent Halfwasson. I'm an entrepreneur coach. I'm also the host of Entrepreneur Encounters. If you are looking for other opportunities to join the movement and just encounter other entrepreneurs who are ready to support you, and you're ready to also support them by pouring out some of your time, expertise, and energy, just kind of the way that Rob just did today, I want to encourage you to check out what we have going on 4:30 Central Time on Wednesdays. We do a group Entrepreneur Encounters for 45 minutes where we bring entrepreneurs together and they're building into each other. And every time we've gotten together over the course of the last year, entrepreneurs, at least one entrepreneur has gotten a significant outcome out of it. So to sign up and learn more, you can go ahead and go to bit.ly/entrepreneur encounters, bit.ly/entrepreneur encounters. Again, I would be remiss if I didn't go ahead and call out a few sponsors that are helping us out here and making this work. Andrew Feller Photography has done all our photography work for us. Buckethead Creative is doing our graphics and bringing us to talk about leveling up. He's bringing us to another level. Charlie's Music Factory does the music that you're going to hear here. And along with Milwaukee Web Designs does our hosting. So again, I'm Brent Halfwasson, entrepreneur coach. Thank you so much for joining us today. And let's see if we can get Chris to bring us out here.